I'd like to reopen the regular meeting of the Bronxville Board of Trustees for April 10th, 2023, and ask all to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I think this is our meeting of our, what we call our annual actions, which is something that every municipality must undertake at their April annual meetings. So if you don't mind, I think I have to read them into the record. Is that correct, Mr. Palmer?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay. All of the following names I'm going to mention will be for a term length of 1 year, and they are all incumbent to their roles. That would be Deputy Mayor Robert Underhill, Village Clerk James Palmer, Village Treasurer and Receiver of Taxes Lori Voss, Deputy Village Treasurer Caitlin Fitzpatrick, Village Assessor Mark Heinbachel, Village Historian Ray Gesselbrock, Village Prosecutor Ronnie James Ritz, Registrar Dulce Angel, and Deputy Registrar Marianne Magliotta. Auditor to the Board of Trustees, Village Administrator for a 1-year term for the purpose of reviewing and approving monthly abstracts of purchases as prepared by the Village Treasurer, Village Administrator / Clerk. Auditor to the Justice Court, Lori Voss, Village Treasurer. Village Auditor, O'Connell's Davies. Signature, Section 1, checks drawn on the bank accounts of the Village of Bronxville may be signed by any two of the following: Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Village Administrator, Treasurer, or Deputy Treasurer. Section 2, checks drawn on the account of Justice Court of the Village of Bronxville established for deposit of fines, fees, and forfeited bail shall be signed by a village justice. Section 3, bank transfers and federal wire transfers to be signed by any two of the following: Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Village Administrator, or Treasurer. Procurement policy. For goods and services which are not subject to competitive bidding or purchased under state or county contract, the following method of purchase will be used to assure the prudent and economical use of village funds. Estimated annual purchase contract amount $1,000 to $299,000. Price quote requirement 2 written or faxed quotations. $3,000 to $19,999. Price quote requirements 3 written or faxed quotations or requests for proposals, RFPs. $20,000 and above, price quote requirements subject to publicly advertised bid or request for proposals must be circulated to at least 3 companies. Contract must be approved by Mayor and Board of Trustees. A contract or purchase order must be signed by the Village Administrator after the Board of Trustees approval prior to order being made. Estimated annual public works contracts amount $1,000 to $4,999. Price quote requirement 2 written or faxed quotations. $5,000 to $34,999. Price quote requirement 3 written or faxed quotations or requests for proposals. $35,000 or more. Price quote requirement subject to publicly advertised bid or request for proposal must be circulated to at least 3 companies. Contract must be approved by Mayor and the Board of Trustees. A contract or purchase order may be signed by the Village Administrator after Board of Trustee approval prior to order being made. Bank depositories, authorized depositories for village funds with J.P. Morgan Chase Bank, Webster Bank, M&T Bank, and Westchester Bank. Surety bonds. That surety bonds be filed in the following amounts. All employees, $200,000 per lost premiums to be paid by village. Official newspaper, designate the Journal News as the official newspaper for the Village of Bronxville until such time as the Village Board of Trustees determines otherwise. Publication of legal notices will appear there as required. Meeting date and order of business. Resolved that the regular meeting date of the Board of Trustees will be held at 7 p.m. on the second Monday of each month, excluding the month of August when there will be no meeting, and holidays unless otherwise publicly noticed and posted. Meetings subject to adopted rules of procedures that were last amended in 2020. Mileage reimbursement. Beginning on Jan 1, 2023, the standard mileage rates for the use of a car, also vans, pickups, or panel trucks, will be 65.5 cents per mile for business mile driven. And then finally to our boards and commissions, and this is a huge thanks to everybody that we appoint, reappoint, and all the folks who have served. I have mentioned many times that without all of this citizen participation, we just couldn't run the village. These people give countless hours, time, expertise, and thank you to everyone sitting on the committees now or to be appointed tonight. To our Finance Committee, Donald Gray, Chris Fahey, and Richard D. Martini, each reappointed for a 2-year term to 2025. To the Planning Board, Albert Van Ness, reappointed for a 5-year term to 2028, and Eileen Marshall, newly appointed to a 5-year term to 2028. To the Design Review Committee, Neil Stefano, reappointed for a 2-year term to 2025, and Thomas Brasco, newly appointed to a 2-year term to 2025. To the Zoning Board of Appeals, Stuart McIntosh, reappointed to a 5-year term to 2028. To the Ethics Board, Donald Kennedy and John Precinct, each reappointed to a 2-year term to 2025. And to the Board of Assessment Review, John Hill and Jeffrey Poorman, each appointed to a 5-year term to 2028. And to the Library Board of Trustees, Margaret Major, Thomas Dordovic, Christina, how do I say her name? Kretikos, Diana Dykert, and Brian Doherty, reappointed for a 3-year term to 2026. So a big thank you to all of these people who help us out. Now, Mayor's report is...
I'm sorry, would you mind, could I just get a motion and a second for the resolution on the annual action items?
Do we have to go name by name, or?
No, I don't need to do a roll call, just a person.
Okay, and I need a
Can
second.
I just ask a quick question on that? It says, this written slash fax quotations. Does written include email, or?
Yes.
Okay, because it seems strange that fax is like called out.
I know, that's probably a little, you know what, but believe it or not, it's, some do still send things in via fax, but yes. And
it's actually more secure now than email.
More secure than email?
Yeah, fax is actually coming back
Really?
strong, yeah.
I learned that in law offices because you can go back in a computer and find everything, but on a fax you can only find that one was sent. You can't find the body of it. So people are going back to, you're absolutely right, they're going back to fax machines in certain situations where the material might be recoverable, maybe.
Right, and actually, and of course, Mary Ann knows this, and Dulcie, especially when it comes to information requests on birth certificates, right? That's very commonplace. Social Security Administration, only via fax, right? Yeah.
Wow.
I'm sorry, we had a motion from Deputy Mayor Underhill.
And a second?
Second.
Yes? Trustee Knapp, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Can I just make one request for clarification and possible motion? Is Stuart McIntosh, I assume, is being reappointed to a 5-year term as member and chairman, because he is the chairman, and so is it your intention, as I would have understood it, to retain him as chairman? Because I think that's
I think,
pointed in the code.
oh, okay, because I thought his colleagues chose him as chairman. No.
I think maybe the vice chair. Well, anyway, our
I think
adept
it's a-
village administrator
No,
will.
actually, that's a mayoral appointment. It would be, the chairman of the planning board would be a
Oh.
mayoral appointment. But, and it might be, that might be an annual appointment.
Yeah.
The chairman of boards is probably an annual appointment, so.
I'm going to tend to think that maybe it could be 2 years. I'll check that. I have that in the book.
So maybe to clarify, because I have a feeling you're right, that you're appointed to a term on a board, but the chairmanship is not as long as your term.
Absolutely, yes.
That's how I remember it. So maybe at the May meeting, we clarify the chairman for all the boards, maybe, yeah, thank you. Yeah.
We'll clarify that Stuart remains as chairman.
Yes,
But it's your intention to have him maintain his.
yes, it is,
I think we should appoint him for 10 years and not 5.
yes, yeah,
Well, Neil's the chair.
chair too, that's why we have to
So,
do it in
yeah, when it.
consistency.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Good point, Bill, thank you.
And I was just going to just make 2 quick observations. One, I did look at the mileage reimbursement, and a typical testament to the thoroughness of our treasurer and village administrator, I noted that the reimbursement rate is identical to what the 2023 reimbursement rate is under the IRS regulations, so that we're fully in sync with the federal
We
government
all check each other, right, Mary?
on that.
Yep, it's like the first thing I ask, right? I know, yes. Yeah.
And I'll just note something that you noted in the past, Mayor, which is that although probably far more people read my hometown Bronxville, under New York state law, you have to have a print newspaper be the newspaper of record. So notwithstanding the cost and sort of pain in the neck nature of journal news being.
We tried, and our assemblywoman, just so the public know, our assemblywoman tried so hard to get the online paper, and the print news, the lobby in Albany was so strong that she couldn't even get it for us, because the print news was nervous that once the door opened, and we spend a lot of money on those.
Right, and interesting, right, it has to be paid. It has to be a paid newspaper, and it's
Yeah.
got to have a certain circulation.
Yeah.
It's all stipulated, I know.
Yeah.
Even though, yep, they keep trying to.
We
change that,
tried
but-
so hard for maybe 4 or 5 years, and she could get it just to a point, and then especially the New York Times came in and was not pleased. Thank you, Bill. That's important too, because I'm sure people think, why on earth are we picking the Journal News over our great online paper? Okay. All right, it's just going to the mayor's report.
We got the second, we didn't vote though, did we? I think we have to actually vote.
We voted, right?
We
Yes, you
voted.
did, yes, yep.
We did.
Yep, Bill's comments came after the vote.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one thing we skipped, Mayor, was the swearing in of mayor and trustees. That's, I guess, been done on paper by
Yes,
Mr.
done.
Palmer, but we should probably
Yes.
reflect that
Although I
it's been
think
done.
you have your oath, I still need to get yours in.
I gave you mine.
You did? Okay.
Yes, I honestly.
Okay.
Yeah. No, and that's nice, and I think the 3 of us can say how fortunate we are to have these jobs, and it's an honor and a privilege. It really is.
Absolutely.
Well, on behalf of Trustee Knapp and I, we're glad to have you all back.
Yes, congratulations.
Since Trustee Knapp very carefully, I said, I'll see you in April, and Trustee Knapp thought that was
A little presumptuous.
a little presumptuous of me.
Gotta let democracy take its course.
Course, that's right. I was reprimanded quite justly by my colleague. That was one of the funniest. All right, my report is really all good news. The chamber did this incredible Easter egg hunt last week, had so many children. You went in the different stores, counted the eggs, counted the jelly beans. They had a huge crowd. And I just have to mention again, they had all these beautiful prizes, and you know I go crazy. Every prize was from a local merchant. There wasn't a prize from Costco, Amazon. Our merchants, they had the most beautiful gift baskets, and the bunny came. It was just wonderful. Also, we've been working with the company called Street Plans as we work to, I like to say, reimagine downtown post-COVID and trying to figure out our outdoor dining, the new norm with a lot of the delivery services, DoorDash, and all those kinds of things. So we're working to balance the interests of a vital downtown aesthetics, traffic, and success for our business. So.
And safety.
And safety, thank you, most importantly. We all met with the company last week, and it's ongoing. Also, we asked for and received a good deal of feedback on the Route 22 crosswalk survey, and members of the board, Trustee Knapp, Trustee Fredericks, Village Administrator Jim Palmer, and Assistant Village Administrator Stephen Shallow are actually meeting tomorrow to go through all the suggestions and perhaps collate the responses from folks, all the interested parties that answered our call for their ideas. And I think, Mr. Palmer, you're going to talk about a couple events, Arbor Day and our cleanup event.
Yes, just briefly, the cleanup is scheduled for the Saturday from 10 to noon, and the Green Committee coordinated that with the Bronxville Middle School character and community group of students.
Where's that meeting?
We're going to gather in the elementary school parking lot again. Gloves and bags will be provided.
And members of the community are
Welcome
invited
to
welcome
attend.
And encouraged.
10 to noon, and I think the focus was going to be the downtown. I don't think as many of the residential areas, but depending on the size, we can certainly fan out and cover as much as we can.
It'll be a beautiful day for it.
Indeed, it looks like, yep. And that again was 10 to noon, gathering in the elementary school parking lot of the Bronxville School. Compost Take-Back Day, we're doing that again this year, and that's going to be on the following Saturday, on the 22nd, right here behind Village Hall along Palumbo, as an effort to get some additional sign-ups for the food waste program, which has been doing very well. And anyway, but the topsoil is free, and residents can help.
We came last year to pick up the topsoil. It is really great quality. We used it in our garden, and definitely encourage people to come and for free and take the compost, pick up a food scrap recycling kit. It's going to be
And that's
great
our
event.
compost that is recycled with a
Yeah.
combination of the leaves and the food waste. So that
Jim-
too is 10 to noon. Yep.
Yeah, Jim, what should people expect in terms of what they could take away in terms of compost, and what should they bring to take compost away with them?
A container, a large, a 5-gallon pail, I guess is kind of what we try to limit it to.
Right, so people should come with their own.
Yes,
sturdy
we'll supply
corrugated
the
box.
shovels, but unless they bring their own shovel, that'll help expedite. But since a limited supply, yes, we do request that people keep it to a 5-gallon container. And that's from 10 to noon, and then again, if someone wants to sign up for the food waste program, we'll have some of those kits that they can
Will
pick
there
up.
be shredding and, shredding?
No,
Okay.
no, this is just for educating everyone on the benefits of the food compost program. The take back day will be announced at a later point in time. I think, and we have that scheduled for June, and, yep. So, no shredding tomorrow, no shredding on the 22nd. The other event I just want to mention, June 3rd?
Yeah, 10 to
so-
1, take back day.
Yep,
Take that day in June.
You're right.
right, so for the public, the traditional take-back day is June 3rd. There'll be notifications on that. This is specifically for the compost program. Arbor Day, we're going to celebrate consistent with the New York, which is the last Friday in April, which is the 28th. We will do a tree planting, and details on that will be to follow. There is a nice little promotional program, though, with our local bookstore downtown in conjunction with the Green Committee, so just wanted to mention that. And some of these items are also highlighted in the Village's e-newsletter, and we encourage residents to sign up for our notification system so that can be emailed to them. The only other item I just want to mention was there is an electric vehicle event that is being done at the Eastchester Public Library. That's on the 29th of April. And again, some of these events are done in conjunction with Earth Day, and if you go look at the newsletter, you'll see a lot of these other events going on countywide for April. So just wanted to mention that. Town tax bills, don't forget the Eastchester town tax bills / county tax bills were mailed on or about April 1st. Those are due by May 1st, since April 30th falls on a Sunday. So if residents didn't receive those, they should reach out to the town of Eastchester receiver of taxes. And, it's just worth mentioning again that with the mild winter, we did have residents take advantage of pickleball lessons with our terrific instructor, Matt Evans. And, of course, the pickleball courts are striped, both of the tennis courts and the paddle courts, but he's been doing lessons over the winter. And so we just want to make sure everyone knows that they can purchase their permits online. And that's it.
Okay, trustees, anyone want to mention something that is timely that you might be working on?
I'd like to mention Maltby Park.
Oh, certainly.
We've been talking over the last 6 months about Maltby Park, and I just wanted to give an update for the public. The Village and the Friends of Maltby Park have been working on this private-public partnership to renovate the park. As a reminder, it's 2.7 acres down of, it's mostly grass, next to the Village paddle courts in Paxton Avenue. There's a strong desire in town for another playground in town and welcoming green space for everybody. So renovations to Maltby Park, as you've probably been by, are long overdue. There has not been any work done on the park since 2011, when the minimum was done to create a bare bones park after the Girl Scout cabin burned down. Detailed plans on the park and the renovations, as well as ability to donate, are up on the Village website, and there's a very easy link there to get both of those links. The Village has committed $150,000 to the project, similar to the cost of the Sagamore Park renovation. The Friends of Maltby Park thus far have collected cash of $242,000 and are actively collecting on pledges for the remaining $108,000+. The Village has ordered the playground equipment and its installation. Rough estimate, probably around August, middle of August. Bids are out for landscaping improvements, including trees, shrubs, installations, perimeter, fencing and hedging, and bluestone patios. Bids are due back on Monday, April 24th. The response to the renovations has been tremendous and very positive. The trustees are truly overwhelmed with the support of the community on the project and the generosity and the support of all our residents. So thank you.
Thank you. Trustees, any other thing that's a catch-up that's, we covered so much? Yes, Trustee Fredericks.
Just a couple of things. I had the pleasure of attending the Eagle Scout induction ceremony held at the Reformed Church a couple of weeks ago. back in March for 3 new Eagle Scouts, Alex Dallendorfer, John Rizzo, and Kian Merluccio. I understand there are going to be a couple of other folks who are going to qualify for Eagle Scout status, and their ceremonies will be scheduled, I think, also in the coming weeks. But it was a pleasure to hear about these young men and their projects and the work that they had put in. So it was really a privilege to be invited to be there. I also had a meeting 10 days ago with Jack Beerworth of the Green Committee, and Trustee Knapp and I will sort of continue to touch base on and compare notes on this front, because while the Green Committee has, I think, been providing a lot of assistance in looking at a tree ordinance from the perspective of preservation, an idea that is sort of kicked around is whether the village can have a fund or perhaps a private-public partnership fund for replanting trees either on village property or on village right-of-ways on local streets. And I wanted to touch base with Jack Beerworth as a representative of Boulder Ledge Garden Club, and I don't know whether he's officially on the Green Committee or not.
Yes, he is.
But, I know that one of the things that they're considering doing, if they haven't already formally undertaken to do it, is to do a tree survey to assess the canopy and to really sort of test the proposition whether we've been losing canopy on a net basis in the village. And if so, and I'd suggested to him possibly as part of that survey, as they go around the village and look at things, to identify areas where the canopy perhaps seemed a little bare, and sort of the concept that if they identified areas and you had people on a street sort of say, yeah, it would be nice to sort of put perhaps for the village's 125th anniversary to plant a tree, that we have some process in place that residents could follow to apply to plant a tree in a village right-of-way, to get a list of approved trees, and again, to sort of work with the Green Committee to do something, again, hopefully on a public-private basis. And the Bronxville Historical Conservancy has suggested that it might also be interested in supporting such a project with the goal of, again, restoring the village to its full leafiness. So that was very interesting. So I think our Arbor Day and tree agenda, I'm not sure whether this will be a year of the tree, but it'll be at least 6 months worth of tree coming up ahead. So those are 2 things I just wanted to mention there.
Perfect, thank you.
Well, speaking, you were on that, we were on the Green Committee meeting last week, and regarding the surveying of the trees, I thought there was an interesting discussion and presentation by, I forget the name of the organization she was with, the Westchester some tree initiative, but the importance of creating software, especially Westchester-wide software that will enable our community and other communities to, feed this information in terms of how many trees, what kind of trees they are, maintenance, all those pieces of information could so much more efficiently be, documented and synthesized and accessed by all if there was a software system that was adaptable. So many people were asking if Westchester was going to pay for such a system, or and the answer doesn't seem to be really forthcoming. But I don't know if we have any software at all that we use at all now. Or, no.
Yeah, Jack reported anecdotally that a tree survey had been done in 1976 by the Boulder Ledge Garden Club, and they'd identified, I think, according to my notes, 11 sort of historic or noteworthy specimen trees of which today 3 or 4 are still around, which is interesting. I mean, I don't want to publicize the street or the property owner who has the oldest tree, but anyway, it was kind of interesting to think that in just,
And the data's
50
been
years.
lost. so,
Yeah, I
and they don't-
mean,
He doesn't have, the survey can't be found.
yeah, but going forward, much as we have
Yeah.
the baseline, the Green Committee emissions survey as a baseline, this would be great to have, I think, as a baseline from a tree perspective.
All
Holly,
right.
do you want to mention the library fundraiser on April 21st? Or, well,
Mary, you can.
Margaret, do you
can
want
mention-
to, Margaret Major is here, the head of our Library Board of Trustees. Would you like to give the specifics?
Well, I don't have all, like, very detailed information, but I can tell you that there was an email sent out this evening, in
Yeah.
fact, saying that it was sold out. So the party is sold out, and that would mean that usually there's over 300 tickets sold. And so that's
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. And I know this year they also had great success with getting some business sponsors, and there'll also be a silent auction, which I think is new this year as well. So, yeah, so it'll be a wonderful event, and I know they have a magician coming or some kind of entertainment, which they're excited about. So I hope we'll see all of you there.
I got my
Yeah.
ticket.
Yeah.
And I'll say something at the end, but I know Helen is working with us on the landscaping project, so I don't know if she'll have something to say in the trustee update on that, but.
Well, yeah, we can, I mean, I was going to, we have been, I've been having meetings with Margaret and some of the members of the trustees and the Friends of the Library to discuss an amazing project that they've spent already so much time and effort working with landscaped architects to create a more welcoming and usable space around the perimeter of the outside of the library. So the designs are really well thought out. They really integrate the wonderful, beautiful architecture of the building and the outside spaces. So we're just having another meeting tomorrow to kind of have a meeting of the minds a little bit on some of those plans and looking at the timeline and the funding requirements for that, so.
That's probably one of the bigger questions for us to sort out between the library and Village Hall would end up being the timeline.
Exactly.
So funding and timeline, so.
Yeah.
But we're very grateful to have Helen Knapp's time and attention on this project, so, and all of you, so.
Thanks, Margaret. Thank
It'll
you.
be another wonderful thing for all the residents of the village, so, thank you.
Thank you, Margaret.
Did you mention the October 3rd save the date, or you want to wait on that for the?
Sure, mention it. Oh, yes, we should mention, thank you both. October 3rd, we're going to have a, I'm going to send out the, October 1st. I'm going to send out a Swift Reach. In fact, Mr. Palmer, I was going to ask you tomorrow to have people save the date, and that's the day we're going to celebrate the 125th anniversary of the village. And we're getting our plans in formation. Trustee Behrens and Trustee Knapp and I have been working with our friend Lisa Rao, resident who agreed to be our chair point person. And so I'm going to send out an alert actually tomorrow with your help and Marianne's help, so everybody puts the date down. And we want it to be right here near the library, Village Hall, everyone welcome, activities free, and for families.
Touring the new DPW building, having the police involved, so a real
right, hopefully opening the
Open-
firehouse.
Yeah, we're hoping firehouse, DPW, PD, because library, because it's the anniversary of the village, not just village government, so we want everybody involved. Thank you for reminding that, thank you, and I do have that right with me here to send out tomorrow, actually. Perfect.
Mary, do you want to just give the public a brief update on the status of the housing compact as part of the budget. I think, all of us on the Board of Trustees are very appreciative of the time you have spent really being the point person for Bronxville, reaching out to other mayors, one, just for purposes of getting information, and two, for sort of coordinating some points which seem to have been lost in the lack of consultative process that predated the housing compact proposal. But I know it's, you've been spending a fair amount of time, including just answering questions and inquiries, and maybe just have a brief update. A lot of people, I think, would be interested.
Thank you, because I get asked that a lot when I'm walking out and about, and I have so far talked with 25 mayors in Nassau, Suffolk, and Westchester, and we're all we've all called everybody we can think of to call, and now it's sort of in the closed room, and they're in the middle of, the big issue that's in Albany right now is bail reform. So the housing compact has kind of gone, I'm hearing it hasn't yet been put front burner because the bail reform is so contentious. But I did learn today, I was telling my colleagues in work session, that things get really come to the fore when the budget, which is very soon, runs out of money to pay the legislators. And when they're not paid, there's more of an impetus to settle. And so, but I've heard anywhere from 1 to 3 more weeks before we know what's going to happen. So, but I do call everybody I can, just about every 3rd or 4th day, just to see where we are. So thank you for having me mention that.
Mary, what's the take of communities upstate, sort of beyond, north of Westchester County? Is there opposition to the housing compact north of the metro area?
It's very interesting, because if you're not on a rail line, you only have to add 1%. We have to add 3% of our population in houses, and they also are not part of the transit-oriented development, which is the one that's caused the most, the one that, has us putting 10,000 more homes, and Scarsdale putting 33,000 more homes. So there are places upstate, little near where I grew up, like the Uticas and the Schoharies, that aren't that upset because they've lost all their industry. So it's sort of like, ooh, maybe it'd be nice if people wanted to come here. So it's very different interests, and especially if you're not on a rail line.
Yeah.
That's the key. That's the key.
And I think just to reemphasize that, I think the sentiment of this board has been that the proposal as formulated was really, one size fits all, and that there isn't really a recognition in the plan that Bronxville's population density is greater than, for example, the city of White Plains' population density, that we're the second most densely.
It's us, Pelham, and Tuckahoe in Westchester County.
And that 40% of our residents live in apartments, and I think there's just been sort of a lot of misapprehension, perhaps more generally in the body politic of New York, that somehow we all live on 1 acre estates here in Bronxville, when in fact, if you're a villager, you realize we have a great amount of diversity of housing, and we aren't spread out on 1 acre estates. Where, as the mayor, as you just said, we're the second or third most densely populated village, and so certain sizes may fit other places, but the one size fits all certainly doesn't seem to work for Bronxville.
And I think the important thing, and I say everywhere I'm asked to speak, is this board is totally not against the concept of needing workforce housing. We understand this is the execution in this particular plan. It's not the idea, but it's just, in most people's minds, it's a very faulty execution of a very noble goal.
Because it may increase housing, but it won't make it more affordable. There's
No.
nothing in the, you know, in the
Nothing
program
in
that
it
is
to
going to
make-
make it more affordable.
No.
It'll only increase our flooding issues.
Flooding is, I mean, that's the whole, I mean, when there's no environmental review, I mean, that's a fatal flaw in this plan, that, you know, we're on one side, Mary Behrens and I are spending time with the congressman saying, you've got to help us, our area floods, and this would actually allow you to build a 10-story structure in a floodplain. So the logic is missing, not the greater goal, but just poorly executed. So, thank you all. All right, we go down to the approval of the minutes, so I need a motion for 3 sets: the executive and work session of March 13th, the regular meeting of March 13th, and the budget work session we had of March 28th. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you, Mary Ann. All right, and I need a motion now to open a public hearing on our 2023-2024 village budget. Do I have a motion to open the hearing?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Mr. Palmer, do you want to just give a little nuts and bolts here?
Sure. First, we did highlight the budget in the most recent newsletter.
Right.
I encourage residents to, or anyone in the community, to businesses, to go to the village website. If you go to the treasurer's page, all the individual documents, general fund, library fund, revenues and expenses, all those are highlighted on the village website, so that someone can come in and also look at a hard copy of the village budget here at Village Hall, but they can also see it online, so I just wanted to emphasize that. And there, it also has my message just highlighting the tax rate, what the tax levy is, et cetera. In short, obviously, the budget's driven by 3 things: taxable value, revenues and expenses, and the net actual tax rate increase as the budget was proposed results in a 2.39% increase. That's a 2.39% increase, and on the website I identify what that means for the average homeowner with an average assessment of village median of $2.5 million would be an increase of $210. Appropriations increased by 5.39%. Now just under a $20 million budget at $19,486,740. So that's up 5.39% from last year. Revenues, fortunately, were also up, thanks again to strong sales tax, which is our single largest revenue source. Total non-real property tax revenues are up just over 6.5%. The budget does call once again for use of unassigned fund balance. We've reduced that from last year again as we try to pull back out of the post-COVID years. So we're using just $700,000 from unassigned fund balance. And we are also using tax stabilization monies. And at our budget work session, you did authorize the allocating $375,000 from our unassigned fund balance, which is very healthy at over $8 million, to be applied for just that tax stabilization over the next several years. And this budget uses $125,000 of that $375,000. And as I discussed with you on our work session, that purpose is to help offset the additional increase in our debt service payments over the next 3 years, when we then have another significant amount of principal from a past bond, actually, going back to 2014, that's going to be coming off. So,
Jim, just on that point, if I may interrupt, there had also been some discussion as to whether the reserves, the sort of tax stabilization reserve and the additional reserve, whether those should actually be set a little higher. And I wondered whether there had been a further consideration as to whether those numbers were the appropriate numbers, or whether we want to put more aside for tax stabilization purposes or not. I mean, we can hold that for discussion. Basically, in the budget that's been submitted, there hasn't been any amendment to what was in the original budget that you presented at the
right, so in the budget, we're allocating 125,000, again, to reduce the levy, and the net levy appropriations minus the non-real property tax revenues I was just discussing, the use of 700,000 in assigned fund balance, the 125 reduces our levy to 11,850,000. That being said, you did approve 375,000 total. So the other monies will simply stay in reserve, but as we discussed, you did ask that the treasurer and I provide you with some proposed uses of the unassigned fund balance going forward. And once we get through that budget process, we will, and you can decide to increase tax stabilization reserve.
Sorry to
assign
interrupt.
more- Yeah, no, that's it. Anyway, so at the end of the day, the village's levy is the 11,850,000. Taxable value, as I said, was, maybe I didn't mention, but is up $80 million. So, to a total of 3.3 billion. So, which is actually our highest in 10 years. And again, if you go to the village website, you could see the 10-year history of our taxable value. So it's all real positive. So really no surprises with some of the employee benefits that are outside of our control continue to increase. We've talked about the village's workers' compensation premiums. Like everyone in New York State has gotten hit with those, and there's basically only 3 choices that municipal governments have for workers' compensation coverage, and we go to the marketplace with all those 3, and we get as competitive as we can be. But that's up, and of course, we also go to the marketplace for liability insurance, and again, somewhat of a victim of our own success in that we had a real competitive rate. So we're seeing those increases, but I mean, you all see where where inflation is. So so those numbers are up, and of course, in our work session, we talked about the pension numbers are not set by us, but the retirement numbers are set by the state of New York based on a 5-year actuarial average. And so anyway, again, I just encourage people to go to the website and see it. I haven't actually received very little feedback, so I just encourage everyone to look. Sorry.
Okay, trustees, do you have any comments before, when you have a public hearing, after your comments, I can open it to anybody here who might like to talk on the proposed village budget. Trustees?
I think that you and Lori have done an amazing job in a world where we've seen, 7-8% inflation to be able to do what you're doing is really impressive, and I'm hopeful that we're able to achieve what you set out to do. It's very impressive, so thank you.
I think you all have taken a very conservative approach when you are looking at various scenarios. I think the conservative outlook you take to it is, extremely beneficial to the village and useful for us.
But I would also add to the conservative, very balanced as well.
Yeah.
In terms of taking a little from here, a little from here, not too much from any one spot, not over-projecting on sales, which is Helen's conservative part, but balancing all the levers in a really fantastic way to get to 2.4% increase in an era of 7% inflation
No.
is really remarkable.
And mine is a big thank you to you both, and also, though, a big plug for shopping local. It's the sales tax numbers that help us, and we get the money from the local stores, not the, not the mail order and the massive change. So shop local because it lowers your taxes. It really does.
Yeah, Mayor, I'll just echo the comments of all my fellow board members on this. I mean, part of the increase in revenue to the village does come in the form of increased property values. So depending on what metric you look at, the number could be higher or lower. It's a somewhat smaller number, 2.39% increase on assessed value, but because the assessed value has gone up,
Right.
I think we all appreciate that number on an out-of-pocket basis for the typical homeowner, not necessarily for every homeowner, is going to be, I think, closer to 4.67%. But in an era of the inflation we've suffered and with the workers' comp issues, largely, we can't really control, benefits, which and deferred compensation, which are a real problem for so many communities. I mean, in my practice, we represent a lot of municipalities across the country, and the financial position of Bronxville in terms of it being on top of its deferred liabilities for the future is just so enviable. But that being said, and to some of the trustees' comments about balance, just so folks understand, our fiscal health isn't just being done for the sake of having, a healthy balance sheet. That directly translates into the most favorable borrowing rates for the village. And again, the amount of money that the village, with the able work of Ms. Voss, our treasurer, the village administrator, Mr. Palmer, has really secured enormous benefits for the village in recent years that we're able to capitalize on. So again, I think the mix between looking to the long term, being prepared for a rainy day, but also taking into account these are taxpayer dollars, and we don't want to raise taxes more than necessary. I think it's just a great budget, and really so much of the thanks, begins and it ends with Lori Voss and Jim Palmer. So thank you again. And then just as a final reminder to residents, most of the village's tax bill is the school, which this board exercises no supervision over. This is simply with regard to all the functions of the village, which, police, DPW, Public Works, everything at Village Hall. And it's just so great to come down to Village Hall and to see how efficiently our really very lean and mean staff gets the affairs of the village taken care of.
The meanest over here.
And on that note, Trustee Fredericks,
I couldn't resist.
I do just want to emphasize, you're right, and the mayor puts this in columns. Yes, 18 cents out of the village school tax bill is the village. And then, of course, if a resident looks at all the taxes that they pay, and we've done this on some of the other presentations in the newsletter, the village's share is approximately 14% of the total tax pie, and we have under 60 full-time employees, and I got to tell you, part of our challenge with our team is it is really that proverbial of asking a little bit more out of everyone. The same level of staffing, leaner than it was, of course, as you remember, well over 10 years ago, but getting a little bit more out of everyone. Simple things that might seem simple to the public, like even implementing the food waste program. We did that with the staff that we have, and that is an important reminder. So less than 60 full-time employees, with a budget of just under $20 million, and everyone is doing a little bit more, and I can't say enough for the entire team. And even though you're having the public hearing on the budget and the fiscal year starts June 1, it really is, it's constantly evolving, and we are constantly looking at expenses. We're always trying to renegotiate because we take our responsibility, the taxpayer, and your leadership absolutely very seriously. So I am real appreciative of the entire team, especially Lori, Steve, and Mary Ann for listening to me here and every day. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, and my remarks were incomplete. The mayor appropriately thanked Mary Ann, who's here, who is a bedrock of everything that happens here in the village, but also thanks to our assistant village administrator, Steve Shallow, who's also here, who is just an example of one of those people. Anytime a problem pops up, there are only so many people there to fix it, and if it's not Jim, it's Steve or somebody else. And thanks for always seeming to be there. Maybe sometimes you aren't there, but you always seem to be there whenever I look. So.
All right, anybody in the public, in the audience tonight who wants to talk about our budget? Yes, hi, Margaret.
So, yeah, and I just wanted to say a word about the library and let you know that we're happy with our library budget this year, and we did have to trim, so we trimmed it back a little bit, but we're still up year over year, and we're very thankful that the areas that Jim and Laurie asked us to trim were not in books and media, which last year we made the case that that's very important. That's the fuel for the library. And so we wanted to thank you all for that. And thank you for all your, great management of the village budget. And also wanted to point out that I don't know if you're on the New York Public Library email list, but I'm getting daily emails now that they're experiencing significant budget cuts, and they're looking at cutting back their hours and cutting back their services, and they're really upset and sending out pleas to the public to, let their leadership in New York City know that this is really going to hurt the New York Public Library. So thank you for taking good care of our library here in Bronxville.
Well,
Thank you.
And thank you, Margaret, for all
Margaret,
your
thank you for your
service.
leadership
No.
and your time.
You're a terrific steward of the library, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Congratulations on your reappointment.
Yeah,
It's a 10-year term, by the way.
yeah, tenured. All right, then I am going to I need a motion to close the public hearing on the budget.
Any other comments on the budget? We should just.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry, it was just budget. Yes, very soon, because we only have 2 more new business items. Yep, absolutely. Okay, then I need a motion just to close the public hearing.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye, opposed, motion passes. All right, Mr. Palmer, new business. We don't have much tonight.
Mayor, I've learned enough from osmosis sitting next to Mr. Stout, who isn't here, but I think that this would probably be the point where Mr. Stout would say, do you want to continue the public hearing, or do you want to vote to approve the budget?
Yeah, do we?
Yeah, and
Yeah, I noticed we didn't have the motion to approve the budget.
Right, I didn't want to make that assumption on it, although I did draft a resolution. If you close the public hearing, you certainly can adopt the budget this evening if you'd like.
do you have the resolution?
I'm quite comfortable if my colleagues are. Okay.
My only question would be, subject to any amendment we might want to make to any of these reserve funds, which I think we can probably make it at
We
any
can.
time.
And that is, to emphasize again, right, I can read the resolution, which includes use of the $125,000 from tax stabilization. That is separate from if you decide that, when Laura and I provide you with a memo of some recommendations for how to use the unassigned fund balance if you want to increase tax stabilization reserve. But right, well,
I mean, I defer entirely to you, Jim, and to you, Madam Mayor, as to whether there is more that we could or should do with respect to some of these funds for reasons that we discussed in the working session.
But they
But
can
more
be
than-
discussed
but more than that, I
post.
just-
Yeah.
Don't we, I mean, I don't know, did we, last year, we waited till the May meeting? I think, I personally wouldn't be adverse to having it open for public who may have watched it tonight, you know, and
that's up
might
to
have some
one.
comments
Right,
coming
so
back.
one option is you can,
If there's no
you could
drawbacks
close,
to it.
you could close the public hearing as you did to public comment and keep it open for written comment
Yeah.
for a certain period of time, and then we could have a special meeting. The only requirement is, of course, you have to adopt the budget before May 1st, but if you wanted to keep it open for like another week for written comment, now that we're telling people where they can look at it, if they have a question, they're welcome to email me or call me, that's fine too. It's whatever the pleasure of the board is.
We just have to have a special meeting before May
May
1st.
Right,
Right,
in person?
yes.
yes.
Well, I'm not, I'd be in favor of that, but I defer to my colleagues if you want to. I don't have any personal, you know, changes I'd like to see, but I think it might be useful for the public to be able to have it another week.
I'm not against, I mean, if that's something that you feel strongly about, I
I
say
think if
we,
we're going to give another week, we should get another 2 weeks. I mean, people are just getting back from,
Yeah, well, that's,
Yeah.
you know, they have been away, so,
So then, if everyone's in support of that, then what I might, let's see, if you did it for 2 weeks, then what I might suggest is that you consider a motion to keep the public hearing open for written comments only
Right.
until Monday, if you wanted to go to Monday, April 24th, written comments by Monday, April 24th, and then I could pull you to get your availability for that last week in April. It would have to be Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, or Friday, sometime before May 1st. But if you wanted to then have a motion and a second to close the public hearing to public comment, but keep it open for written comment till Monday, April 24th.
Can I
Yep.
just
That's fine.
ask what people's availability is? Because I'm out of town, I think, the 23rd through the 27th. So if we could have a special meeting on the Monday and maybe have written comments due the 21st.
that's fine.
But does Monday, the 24th work? Do we have a conflict with the
You mean
planning
Friday the
board or does-
21st? I'm sorry, I said
Yeah, comments by the 20,
Friday the 21st.
yeah, I mean, I would really say comments by the 20th, because that way you could send us a memo summarizing any of them, and we'd have one business day to do it, and then have special meeting, say, 7 o'clock on the
I couldn't do
24th.
it on the night, I could do it at like 8 a.m. on Monday morning.
Okay.
I'd have to do a morning one, too.
Okay.
I'm fine. I can do a morning.
Yeah.
8 o'clock on the 24th?
Or 8, yeah. Is that for you? Is that
Okay.
too, is that, you want to make it a
Robert?
bit later?
Yeah?
April 24th at
8
8 a.m. for considering adoption. So written comments open through Friday, April 21st, 2023.
I would say Thursday, the 20th, because that just gives you a business day.
I'm sorry,
to
Thursday,
collect all.
you want to go Thursday, the 20th, Thursday, April 20th. Okay,
Okay.
and then a special meeting on
24th.
Monday, April 24th at 8 a.m. for the purposes of adopting the budget. Okay.
Perfect. Okay. All right, then do I have a motion to keep the written portion of our public hearing open until that Thursday,
Thursday, April 20th.
April 20th?
And to set a meeting at 8 a.m. on the morning of Monday, the 24th, for
Purposes.
for a special board meeting for purposes of,
Passing the budget.
Yeah.
Or voting on the budget.
Voting on the budget.
I
Okay.
move that.
Move, and a second, second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Perfect. All right, and now we go down to new business, and retaining our engineer, Mr. Palmer, for more of our flooding.
Yes, right, we discussed this during our work session. We do have our outside consultant, PCI, already in place. However, this is a specific proposal from PCI for $23,000 to study and develop a proposal that we can share with Westchester County and subsequently bid out for improvements to the outfall for the 72-inch and 36-inch for the Midland Valley Drainage Basin located right down here at Scout Field.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
And a second? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. And finally, recognize,
This is a really important, and
Yeah.
this is one of our top priorities as a village, is to get this,
yeah,
start flooding addressed.
yeah, good point. This is just another one of the, part of the web we're putting out there. Good point.
And PCI, by the way, does a ton of work for the village on our stormwater and our sanitary sewer systems, and so they know the village extraordinarily well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yep, thank you
Good
for
point.
emphasizing that. Okay, and just the last item, thanks to Stephen's efforts at getting our renewal for our Tree City USA, we had to make sure we do another recognition of our Arbor Day, which we celebrate on the, with the rest of New York, Friday, April 28th. So if you could just approve the Arbor Day resolution.
All right, I'll move it. Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. And we were also named, I think we mentioned it last month, but a Tree City,
Yes, that's.
which is
yeah.
really important, so, yeah, thank you.
We are named a tree village.
Oh, three, yeah, good point, good point.
Thank you, Stephen, for all that.
Yeah, thank you, Stephen. All right, trustees, anything that you want to add before I open it to public comment on any topic?
No, thank you.
No? I just want to say, and I did mention when the three of us got reelected, I think Jim Palmer mentioned it, but I really believe we have the best job in the best village, and it's thanks to my colleagues, and it's thank you to the staff, because it's a pleasure to be a part of this team. So I just thank everybody for allowing us to keep our jobs. So, yeah.
Ditto.
Yeah. So thank you. All right, that being said, anyone just come up, and if you might just give us your name and address, that would help on any topic.
Margaret Major, 4 Sussex Ave. Thank you for serving again, Mayor Marvin. We really appreciate all the hours that you put into the village. It's incredible. It's a full-time job, and I know you don't get paid a penny. And we really, really appreciate all the years that you've served the village of Bronxville and everything you do to make this a great place to live. So thank you in particular, and thank you all of the trustees for everything you do. But I really want to thank you in particular.
Wow.
So thank you.
Thank you. The only thing I will say, Jim Palmer said the staff has gotten leaner in the last 10 years, but I have not. So that was a little painful, James. All right, anyone like to talk about any topic? Okay.
My name is Andrew Langhoff. I live at 83 Summit Avenue. Congratulations on your budget. I've been through a few of those, and I know how much work that takes. I'm here tonight actually to talk about the proposed crosswalk at Route 22, which I know has become a difficult topic, and I'm here to suggest to the board that they quickly resolve this and move on to other improvements in the village. So on this question of the crosswalk, there's some things I understand, and some things I don't understand, and if you'll bear with me, I'll try to make that clear. I understand the idea of the crosswalk was proposed by local residents and supported by a petition of over 100 signatures. I understand that a year-long process was put in place with two consultants, one from the county and one from the village through an RFP. I understand that support for the crosswalk was received from the county and from the state. I understand the topic was the subject of open meetings and that this board unanimously approved a crosswalk for Route 22. I understand that following that approval, and I understand after construction started, that objections were voiced by certain residents. And I understand that this board decided, and I have no quarry with this, to pause the project and to try to do 4 things as I understood it. 1, to hear those objections. 2, to do some kind of count as to how many people are actually crossing the road. 3, to appoint a third consultant to study the plan. And 4th, to do a survey of residents on the issue of walkability in the village. So that much I understand, and I think we're good. Yeah. What I don't understand personally what the real objections are, in part because a lot of what I hear seems to conflate a project that was properly approved with some nascent ideas that were subject to a single brainstorming session. And that's, I think, causing a lot of confusion as to what the objections are. I understand one objection is that there'll be a flashing light, which I understand now only comes on when the crosswalk is used. But the other objection I hear is that the crosswalk isn't going to be used. So I can't square those, and I'm confused. And I would appreciate some help if someone could help me try to meet these objections. And I'll admit, I've not been at these meetings, and I apologize for that. That's on me. But if there was a way to understand what these concerns are so they could be met, that would be helpful to those of us who, frankly, are in favor of the crosswalk. 2, I don't understand exactly how many people need to be counted to cross the crosswalk for us to hit our minimum number. Do we have a number? If we're doing a count, that this number would be the number? Do we have a number now? Could we have a number before we do the count so that when we do the count, the goalposts don't move? You understand the concern. Are we using the federal highway numbers? If we are, that's great. I think we've already exceeded those. Right? 3, I don't understand why our third consultant hasn't been hired yet. Because it's April, and your next board meeting is in May, and this is the ideal time of year when people are crossing the street and going to school, and you would think this would be the moment right now. I think we've just approved another consultant. Could we soon, tonight, in 2 weeks when you meet again, please approve a consultant so we could get on with the counting of the number of people who cross the street? Or if there are other ways of doing that, if there are cameras or things that I'm not aware of, that's fine. But I really would suggest that now is the time when the weather is peaking to really understand what the crosswalks are seeing. This is a little more complicated, but...
You also have 3 minutes, Andrew, just to make sure.
Oh, 3 minutes? I'm sorry, I had no idea.
No, that's our protocol here.
I'm sorry, I'm almost done.
We should have said it sooner.
Almost done.
should have said
First
it.
time
Yep, got it. No
caller, long-time listener.
Yeah.
So the last 2 things I don't understand. I don't understand why the survey, the draft survey that I've seen, is asking the residents where they think the crosswalk should be. I'd suggest that should be done by an expert for a couple of reasons. One, the expert's going to know better than the rest of us, I think, where it should be based on their own study and understanding of how these things develop. But more importantly, I'm concerned that a survey like this will be gamed by certain residents to move the crosswalk to another street, and then we'll have the residents of that street complaining that they weren't told about the survey. And, well, you can see we're going to be in this vicious cycle, and we're not going to really be solving the problem. So I'd like to suggest that the expert decide where the crosswalk should be. And finally, I don't understand that there was a flaw in the process of approving this crosswalk. And I do understand that there have been false allegations made in this regard, and I understand that there have been personal attacks made against people who were involved in this process. And when I think about personal attacks on our neighbors who came to this organization and said, we'd like to make our village better, it really concerns me, and I can't think of anything less Bronxville than ad hominem attacks on your neighbors when they're trying to do something positive for the village. So, my 3 minutes is up. Thank you. I would just suggest that we move quickly on this. If you could try to help me with the 4 things I don't understand, I'd like us to move on from this, make a decision, and perhaps improve the village in other different ways. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Anyone else on any topic?
Good evening again, congratulations.
Thank you.
Highly contested election. I would like to ask the trustees a question.
Introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Please.
I'm David Stern, I live at 25 Sagamore Road. I'd like to ask the trustees a question without referencing Mr. Palmer. What do you think would be a reasonable time frame from the time a village resident makes a request for a sign to be posted on their street until that is accomplished? Any guesses? Reasonable time frame.
You know, I would have to know the specific circumstances.
Sagamore
Yeah.
approaching a school zone.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to know the street, the time frame of, we've had a
Good question.
terrible supply chain
Okay,
issues,
yes,
so.
that's very good. Reasonable is not in Jim Palmer's vocabulary. On 3/16 at 12:23, I wrote a request alerting Mr. Palmer about a sign being missing entering the school zone outside the Christ Church. On 12:42, on that same day, Mr. Palmer wrote me that Victor is heading there now. That's 19 minutes. Correct, Jim? Yes. When I tell this to people from New York City, they don't believe me. I take out my cell phone and I show them. Except when I tell Bronxville residents, they said, of course, it's Jim Palmer. When I told George McInnes, he says, well, of course it's Jim. And then he tells me the whole history of how lucky we were to get Jim in Bronxville.
All true.
All true. I just wanted to publicly thank you as opposed to sending an email. I do want to get
And
back
I wouldn't have guessed 19 minutes anyway.
I didn't think so. And you know what? The amazing thing is, I'm not watching my watch here. The amazing thing is when those workers came, they put up 2 signs, one at Beach Street and one as the street curves. I talk with my hands. And it's sort of, you don't see what's coming up ahead. So there's 2 school zone signs. I want to point out, one of the things that sort of has bothered me is that when we talk about school crossing, and I should say at that crossing, a young girl was hit by a car, and I think they now feel safer because traffic is slowing down and the police chief is making it slower. My wife asked me why am I getting involved in this. I was the token old man when we talked about crossing Route 22. But then last night I remembered when I was in college in West Philadelphia at Penn, I used to go play basketball in a schoolyard a few blocks away on, I think it was on 47th Street. And one day we were playing in the schoolyard, kids from the neighborhood, and this little kid, 5 years old, ran across the street to come into the schoolyard. And a car going only 15, 20 miles an hour crushed him. I held him in my arms. One of the teenagers, it was his kid brother, ran. The parents ran. Everybody was inconsolable. But the people we forget about, the driver was inconsolable. There was no school crossing sign there. There was no walkway sign there. The driver didn't know, and kid just jumped right out in front of him. So when we talk about pedestrian needs and driver needs, sometimes they're not so adverse. That driver kept on telling me, I killed a child. And I think he's still living with that if he's still alive. And then today I went on Google Maps, and I looked at that playground, and there's still no crosswalk there. Playground's in the middle of the block. The kid ran between two cars to get to the playground. So as you consider crosswalks, think also for the kids, think for the parents, think for the old folks, but for me, but also think about what it would do to a driver through no fault of his own. Might harm a kid. Thank you for your time, and I'm so glad you're back. One of the great things about Bronxville is this group and that guy over there and the great school system. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Your points, both our speakers, all our speakers tonight were listening, and your points are very fair and very well taken. So thank you. Thank you all. All right, anyone else like to? No? Mr. Abbott, you look like you would like to say something.
You know me, Mayor.
I do.
I would like to say many things. My name is Sean Abbott. I am known to this governing body as Brer Abbott, and I just want to remark on tonight, because I've been here from the start, and it's just been an amazing evening, and I was so moved by the speakers tonight. You know, there was an article in the Guardian newspaper. I'm aware of the time, by the way. The 3 minutes
Yeah,
thing.
thank
Okay,
you.
Look, let me just take away from my own time by saying, I like to suffer, so I go to municipal meetings, and I go to open mic nights. Open mic has this thing like it's 7 minutes, and that's it. Municipal meetings, 3 minutes, that's
Yeah.
good, but let's split the baby at 5 minutes. All right, now I know what my time is, and I want to make reference to Peter North,
Yeah?
who's behind my shoulder, and I'm speaking of municipal meetings. This man is an artist, and he should be recognized, because if you look at municipal meetings online, as I do, it's just one camera just shooting down, and, you know, and Peter is actually working, he's editing as we're filming, and there were appointments tonight of really key people who keep this village going. And one of them is Ray Gesselbrocht, whose
Right.
name I always have to check and make sure, soft G, hard G. But that man is amazing. And with Jim, there has been a collaboration where this incredible, I want to return to what has been spoken about. I promise I'm going to come back to this, because it's very significant. It's much more important than what I have to say about these crosswalks. Much more important than what I have to say. But it is the 125th year of Bronxville as a municipality. And we do have a municipal administrator who understands this village like it's impossible. I was talking to Jim during the photography break about, you know, the difference between a 5-foot pipe and a 6-foot pipe. What Jim knows is amazing, and we're so blessed to have him as our municipal administrator. What else was I saying? Oh, yeah, so Jerome Kern, that's what I wanted to mention. Jerome Kern lived in this village, and this is what's over there now in the archive, because Jim and Ray moved these documents from deep in this building over to the library. So I've been working with Ray, because it's the 125th anniversary. 125 is so significant. We're also proud of a centennial. But 125 is like, that's the date that a human being does not reach. So if you are a municipality and you've got to 125, you are a community. You are something of measure. Thank you. What's over there is the police report on a night that a cop was sent to Jerome Kern's house because Mr. Kern was playing piano after hours. And it's so beautiful. This police officer, he's writing the report. He's obviously standing there listening to the music that Jerome Kern is composing. And I'm not sure if it's Old Man River or Smoke Gets in Your Eyes. I'm not really clear on when Jerome Kern was here and composing in Bronxville. But I just love this image that we get from these archives if we preserve them. If we preserve them. So there are archives still here in Village Hall. And Mr. Palmer spoke earlier to a need to have an historical record to refer to about things like easements and things like Like, well, who owns the ground underneath? This all gets back to the environment. This all gets back to the lived environment. Now, what the gentleman prior to me was talking about is so important. I am terrified of driving. I am an incompetent driver, and I will confess it publicly, and I have a friend on the board, I'm not going to say who is a walker as I am, someone who has walked this village. There are two people, actually, I know who walk this village as much as I do. Okay, it's the mayor and Mr. Palmer. I've never seen two people walk Bronxville Village as much as I do, but thank you for that. But I want to just say, if you are someone who is driving a car into someone and ended their life, it's over for your own life. And it's incumbent upon a body, a governing body, to say, let's look at this tragedy from all possible directions. I mean, the opportunity for accident has been exponentially increased in our lives in this community. There is so much traffic flowing into Bronxville. The Journal News should be the paper of record. I've taken up too much time. There's so much more to say. Oh yeah, but about Jerome Kern. So the police officer waited until there was a pause in the music, and he tapped on Mr. Kern's door, and he said, you know, come on, there are people down in Kensington Terrace who are trying to sleep tonight. It was August the 9th of, I think, 1923 or something. The dates are all wrong. But the important thing is, we have that record. And this beautiful moment when a police officer was saying, you know, I like what's going on here in Bronxville, and I'm going to live in this moment and enjoy this moment. And I really hope that in this 125th, like, what is the word for it? There's centennial and there's bicentennial. What's the 125th year? There's no word for it. But we as a community are 125 years old. I also have an outstanding FOIL request, so please, I gotta have an answer to the FOIL request. It's 41 days old and 29 work days old. And thank you very much for your time and attention. What an exceptional governing body, and thank you for running for office, because no one else would do it. But that shouldn't be, because he just left. Like, that man should be mayor. I mean,
Thanks, Sean.
I don't live here. Oh yeah, well, my commute. I'm going back to Little Dominican Republic, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Sean. Yeah.
Mayor, I do have one other housekeeping matter. You know, I thought Andrew Harwood's point that, you know,
Langhoff.
I'm sorry, Andrew Langhoff. I don't even know what I said. Yeah, that the school year is sort of running away from us, and I just wonder whether if we don't get these counts potentially lined up, someone to do them, we may have just let the entire school year slide by without doing it. So I would request that you know, Jim at least have a contract that we can look at, because we don't even know whether, you know, the cameras or the whatnot can even, you know, are ready to be installed. I just think that would be good to be able to be voted on the 24th. And Jim, I assume we can just notice that on the agenda for the meeting. And I assume that Helen's and Jim's and mine and Steve's remit is to try to get this damn survey, if pardon my French, finalized and out. I think that the board has sort of already authorized both methods, but is there a particular form that you want us to follow? Mayor, I mean, we'll get a final draft and sort of circulate it to everybody?
I think we trust your judgment, so, and I'm just glad you're meeting tomorrow, because, you know, to have the meeting tonight, and, you know, it's comforting that all of you stepped up and are meeting literally tomorrow. So we just got to move forward.
Yeah, I just think time's getting away from us, and We haven't quite met the 19-minute standard that Mr. Palmer set in another area.
Make a motion to adjourn?
I'll second it. All those in favor? Aye. All right. And Mr. Palmer, we meet for the major meeting in May on what?
May 8th.
May 8th. Okay. Perfect.